Mirror is a reflective leadership tool. And so it fits into Authentic Leader because I based the whole thing on it helps leaders filter out the truth quicker. So they have a source of unfiltered, data driven feedback with no politics or sugarcoating. If they're losing good people, Mirror shows where a leader is actually growing their people or just assigning work and what to change.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. We have Jennifer Jensen on our call today. Jennifer, thank you for joining. And where are you calling from today?
Thank you for having me, first off. And I'm calling from Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
Fantastic. So, just jumping it into your background, you grew up on a pig farm in Canadian prairies, worked across oil and gas, utilities, aviation, and tech in 7 countries, watched brilliant people get promoted into leadership and then silently drown. How long did you watch that pattern repeat before you decided to do something about it?
Probably about 20 years. And actually went into crisis mode because I was experiencing my own issues in the workforce. And through that, decided it was time to start helping leaders come out of that.
Mhm. You said most professionals encounter fewer than two exceptional leaders in their entire careers. In 30 years of corporate leadership, what separated exceptional ones from the rest? I mean, was there a common thread?
They were the ones who actually allowed their team to fail and be okay with it and support them through that to be better. And not many leaders know how to do that. And so that was really effective, but they also guided you and led you in the direction you needed to be in without dictating it or micromanaging you to get there. And so that was a huge thing for me.
What finally made you leave corporate and build Authentic Leader? Was there a last straw? Was it a slow build?
There was a last straw. It was a big one. I was dealing with a manager who was micromanaging me, and I couldn't talk to anybody above her level. I was dealing with another boss who would take credit for all my work. And then I had a director who didn't want to deal with conflict or deal with anything that was going on. And so when you're in that moment and you're trying to protect your team from all that craziness, and then the organization removed some of those individuals and brought in 2 other individuals who brought in their own egos and their own standards and said, "Oh, we did it better at this last organization." I was like, "Then why are you here?" And through that, I started to develop PTSD. And then one of the big things that happened at the same time was my dad was diagnosed with cancer and given 5 to 6 months to live. And so my world went into chaos. And how do you deal with that? And for me, I went and started putting on the armor and became almost robotic and automated, that I forgot to include people in this whole journey and allow them to be passengers. I was just dictating everything that was going on. And I thought I was taking care of everyone until somebody said to me, "Jennifer, don't become so disconnected that you lose who you are and you stop caring about everyone around you," which I had started to do. But that comment initially made me angry because wasn't I caring for everybody? I was holding the family together. I was still dealing with work. I was still doing everything for everyone. But then I started to realize that it was impacting me personally, and I wasn't taking care of myself and had to start going through counseling. And within a few sessions, I started to realize what was going on and how I needed to figure out who I was again and who is Jennifer dealing with all this chaos. And through that, I started to hear again, "Oh, it's good to have Jennifer back again." And that also helped drive me to write the book, Developing Authentic Leaders, because I wanted to help other leaders figure out who they were and how they can improve and better become the leader that their team needed.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. That's a pretty heavy story.
And just to finish it off, my dad is still with us. So
Oh,
that's
okay.
6 years later. He is still with us and to this day and doing quite well. He's a medical miracle there on that one.
Did you go the traditional way or I guess, the alternative way? Resolve that.
We didn't do anything medically. There's no medical intervention, no chemo, no radiation, no naturopath.
Weird.
He just wanted quality over quantity, and now he's getting both.
Amazing. That's what I assumed. All right. You call the gap between technical excellence and people leadership the most expensive, most ignored problem in the organization today. Why do organizations keep promoting brilliant technical people into leadership without giving them the tools? Is it arrogance, ignorance, or something else?
I think it's a lot of ignorance and not recognizing it because there's a lot of people that are really good at what they do currently as being experts in as subject matter experts, but then to go into people leadership, that takes a whole nother skill set. And I don't think organizations truly realize that skill set that's required. They think we can just promote you and you'll be good. No, it doesn't mean they're going to be effective at leadership. That's a whole nother skill set. And it's no matter what role you're in, if you're getting moved to a different position, that's a whole nother skill set that you need and self-awareness that you need to grow in. And organizations don't take that into account, which is unfortunate.
Okay. Imposter syndrome and leaders, you've called this out specifically. What does it actually look like in a senior executive who's been leading for 20 years? Is it different from what we see in emerging leaders?
I think it's very similar because it's just who we are, and I know even for myself, changing my direction in my career, you feel like who am I to be doing this? But at the same time, you've gotta start to look at that and go, "Why not me? I have the capabilities, I have this. I just maybe need help and support in tweaking some areas," and that's where you need to hire those resources to help you. And when you start to admit that you do have weaknesses in certain areas and get the support, then that imposter syndrome starts to disappear. But I think that's happens in no matter what leadership level you're at.
Lumeria Spark, you said it for individuals, use it for individuals and teams. What does a well-run Luminia session unlock that more conventional personality profile doesn't?
So with Lumina, I did a lot of research on the different profiles out there. And what I loved about Lumina is that it looks at 24 key qualities that we all have at varying levels. And then it looks at those qualities, what you're like when you're at home, most comfortable, relaxed, what you're like at work, and what you present yourself to the everyday world, and what you're like when you're overextended or stressed out. And so it takes all those 24 qualities and looks at those, and then it shows you where you could use improvements or what are your hidden treasures, what are your blind spots that you need to be aware of so that you can adapt and change. For me, I used to be the little fighter that would go in and fight if I needed to. And then through that, I've learned to not be the little fighter when I'm stressed out, but to go in and start to ask key questions to get the conversation going and to change the dynamics of the team. So it makes you more self-aware. And self-awareness is key because when you are stressed, that self-awareness collapses first, and then you stop noticing how you're landing with your team, and that relationship damages your team and takes years to repair. And so if you understand that, then you can then support your team and be a lot more aware in different situations.
Okay. You're very open about your faith in being the center of how you lead and serve. In a corporate world that often treats faith as a private matter, how do you hold that authenticity without it being a barrier?
So I stay true to my word. I try very hard. Yes, I have a faith, but I don't make that the forefront of anything. It's just in the values and how I interact with my team and what I portray. And my big thing is that I want to be true to who I am. And I know what my core values are, and I want others to understand their core values and to lead with those and to truly understand who you are in all situations. And that's the key, whether you have a faith or not.
Okay. Let's just jump into a different topic here. So, hybrid and remote work has fundamentally changed the trust dynamics between leaders and teams. What are you seeing in the organizations you work with? Are leaders adapting well, or is the gap getting wider?
The gap is getting wider because a lot of organizations have said no more hybrid. We're going back to what we traditionally did. And that's really impacting a lot of teams. And I think the key that we need to understand here is that a lot of people were way more productive in the hybrid model than they were at work. And I know that even for myself, because when I'm at home, I'm much more focused and can get through a lot of things faster because of the fact that I'm not having all the conversations. But at the same time, organizations need to have that because we're missing out on the hallway conversations or the little quick status meetings. So you need a combination of both to be effective because there's different personality types that you're dealing with. You've got your introvert who likes the at home. You've got your extrovert who needs the work in the office and the people. So if you can combine those two, you're going to have much more productive teams. And if those, you're always going to have individuals who are going to abuse it to a certain degree, but deal with those individually, not try and group it for the 99% who this is actually effective for.
Good. AI is changing every industry, including leadership development. There are AI coaching tools like AI feedback systems, AI assessments. Does that excite or concern you? And where do you think human element becomes irreplaceable?
So AI, you're gonna have to adapt to it and start to use it in your everyday life. I'm using it in my everyday life, and it actually excites me because for me as a leader and someone who's advising and coaching individuals, I actually sat down and went, how can I use AI to be more effective at what I'm doing? Because I know the coaching role and that's going to start to disappear. So what can I do to really support that? And so that's why I even developed an app and figured out how to do it as a non-technical individual and called Mirror. And it's a reflective leadership app to support you as you're growing in your leadership. And so you can have real time analysis done. And I think there's a lot of roles that are going to be changing through AI. And it's our responsibility to start to learn AI. And even as leaders, how do we incorporate it and train our people so that they can be more effective? And AI isn't going to slow the pace down for leaders because that's a human choice, but it can help them see themselves more clearly while the pace is high.
You said podcast guesting is a specific strategy for leaders wanting to build a visibility and thought leadership. What made you invest in that deliberately? What's it done for your own business?
So I decided that, there's so many coaches out there and so many leadership. I wanted to do something different. And I was like, how do I strategically be different than what a lot of individuals are doing out there? And so that's why started looking at podcasts, had a podcast agent to support me through that. And so that has helped bring to light who I am and what I'm doing in the industry. But it's also really interesting because I've connected and made friends with people and hosts along the way that have really helped grow my business as well. And so it's kind of an out of the box marketing tool that many don't think to use. And that's where I'll even admit it that I used AI to go, how can I set myself apart? And one of the things was podcast.
That's a good fit. I love it. Let's see here. We've got the book, the coaching, the Lumina workshop, the speaking, the mirror, which is a newer venture.
The newest venture is the Mirror app because that took me about 2 months to build, and now I'm beta testing. So if there's people that would like to beta test it, I'm completely open to that. Hoping to go live at the end of May with it because I think it's going to be really beneficial. And the feedback I'm getting is that people are finding it very beneficial so far to help them lead and guide their teams more effectively.
Okay. What is mirror and how does it fit into the authentic leadership? I think authentic leader is building.
So Mirror is a reflective leadership tool. And so it fits into Authentic Leader because I based the whole thing on my book. So the book is driving it. It's using AI technology to help grow it. It helps leaders filter out the truth quicker. So they have a source of unfiltered, data-driven feedback with no politics or sugarcoating. If they're losing good people, Mirror shows where a leader is actually growing their people or just assigning work and what to change. Let's say the message isn't landing with their team and they've told them 3 times how to do it in 3 different ways, but it's not clicking with the team. So Mirror pinpoints where that communication is missing clarity, context, or connection so that alignment happens faster. And like, can't prove growth as a leader. We don't know how to prove that. Like, how do you know when you're growing as a leader and where's the proof behind it? So this also tracks real behavior change over time with data and not just self-reported confidence.
That's cool. Where's the business generating the most traction right now? I mean, is it individuals, corporate teams speaking, or something else?
It's actually group cohorts. So doing group coaching with teams because I have a 12-week program for middle management. It's also starting to pick up for the CEOs with the 6-week program. per cohorts and just working with those individuals and dealing with the pain points that they have each week. And how do we put practical tools in place to support them to change or adapt as needed?
Okay, let's see here. Where do you want Authentic Leader to be in the next 6 to 12 months? Is it about going deeper into existing clients, broader reach, or building a new audience?
I think it's a broader reach we're aiming for because I'm working on getting more into the US versus here in Canada and just growing that business. And be honest, with AI and where it's going, I have no clue where the business is going to end up in 6 months to a year. I didn't even have Mira planned. And suddenly the idea came to fruition and I made it happen. So who knows? I'd love to say that I'm going to do all this great stuff, but I don't know. And I have to be adaptable and flexible because you have your base strategy, but beyond that, anything's possible.
Yep. If you had a magic wand that could fix just one thing inside Authentic Leader right now, that's slowing the mission down, what would it be?
Probably me, because I can be my own worst roadblock. If I need to progress somewhere and I feel uncomfortable, I start to put up walls and boundaries. And because I now recognize that, I'm learning to slowly identify that. Well, actually, not slowly, I'm quickly identifying that now and starting to remove that and put the support needed to progress. Because when you're an entrepreneur, it gets uncomfortable frequently. And so I'm learning to be uncomfortable a lot.
Oh, yeah. I can definitely relate to that. Well, Jennifer, this has been a generally a rich conversation. The pick on margins, the 7 country career, the father recovery, reshaping everything, and now this very clear mission to fix the most expensive ignored problem in leadership. This episode is going to land with every middle manager who feels invisible and every senior leader who got there without the people skills. I'll send you a summary once we've compiled the series.
Perfect. Thank you for